Hey everyone, hope you guys are having a good day, evening, morning, whenever, wherever you are watching this. We have quite a show for you today. There's a lot of things to talk about, including an update on JP Miller. We have an update on Diddy. There's another case about a serial abuser who's been getting away with it for decades. We're going to talk about that, as well as the horrific tragedy that happened in the UK today. Now, before we get into that, though, you guys know that I have to do the things to pay the bills. And I actually have something in here that's really, really, really exciting that I haven't shown anybody yet. Some people know about that I've been doing this, but I'll just show you when we get there. So real quick, if y'all aren't aware, I have written if you're somehow not aware or you're new here, you might not know this. I have written 2 books, children's books. One is called Boundaries. If you are no contact, limited contact with a family member, it's a way to help explain that to your kids in a way that's easy for them to understand, doesn't vilify that person, and teaches them the importance of boundaries and conditional relationships and what those are. The next book is called Surprises Are Okay, Secrets Are Not. And I think that this book right here, one of the topics today is definitely going to play into this, why I wrote this book. But basically, this book is designed to help teach you, I cannot talk today, to teach your children, there we go, that they should never be keeping secrets. Adults should never ask them to keep secrets, and that surprises have an end date, whereas secrets do not, which is why surprises are okay, secrets are not. Not just because I wrote it. I feel like every parent should have this book because of the reasons that I did write it, and that's mainly because I don't want to be doing a story on your children ever. You can pick both of these up in the TikTok shop or through the link in my bio, justinontiktok.com. Any ones that you order from the TikTok shop or link in bio, they will come signed. You can get them on Amazon as well, but those don't go through me, so those won't be signed copies. But just to let you know. But here's the exciting thing that I want to show you. I have been working on a 3rd book, and I just got the first rough draft back from the illustrators. I love it. I've got to make a few changes on my own. But I want to show you guys the cover real quick. This is a book about sharing. It's called Victoria, the Alien and the Lost Balloon. That's the cover on it. Once I have a better idea of when it'll go into print, I will set it up for pre-order, but it will be out before the holidays. So I wanted to let you guys know about those things. Now, the last thing that I want to say before we get into this is to hit that subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, subscribe is the same as a follow. Anywhere else doesn't cost you anything. It is free to do, and it helps out the channel a whole lot. And same with my TikTok friends who are watching, because as y'all know, I typically will stream TikTok while I talk to you guys. If you are new here, please consider hitting that follow button. It's something free that you can do that makes a big difference, and I appreciate it for sure. So with that said, let's get into this, okay? Because we have a lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of stuff to talk about. At the top of the hour, though, or top of the program, I should say, I do want to bring in the fact that there was a Micah Miller update. Yeah, I don't have any images or anything like that for this because it happened literally minutes before I got on. So I didn't have time to put anything together, and actually happened while I was on live. People let me know that this was going on. So basically, if you have been following the Micah Miller, JP Miller case saga, there was court today, and in that court, they were deciding on whether or not, basically what was going to happen to Micah's estate, if her estranged husband, JP Miller, would get control over it, or if her family would get control over it. And I don't have a lot of details at this particular moment in time, but what I can tell you is that an Horry County probate judge on Monday awarded full control of Micah's estate to her estranged husband, John Paul Miller. Now, I'm going to work to try to get some more details on that. Hopefully we'll have an update for you guys shortly, but that's just kind of wanted to let you guys know that there. So that being said, let's get this on here real quick. I want to talk about this today because this is tragic. So we're going to start off with a stabbing that happened in the UK, where at least 25 children ages 6 to 11 were taking part in a Taylor Swift themed dance workshop at the Heart Space in Southport, which is in northwest England outside of Liverpool. A taxi pulls up around 11:50 a.m. A male dressed in a black hoodie gets out, enters the space, and began a brutal attack, stabbing these children. As a result of this rampage, at this point, 2 children have died. 9 children have been injured, with 6 of those 9 being in critical condition. All of those injured have suffered stab wounds sustained during the attack, and the wounded girls have been rushed to 3 local children's hospitals where they're being treated for their stab wounds. Now, there are also 2 adults that are in critical condition, and police say that they believe that these adults sustained their stab injuries from trying to help protect these children. Now, a 17-year-old boy from Banks has been arrested, and a knife was confiscated as evidence in connection with these stabbings. However, a motive is currently unclear, and the teenager is going to remain in custody while they're catching him. But they did go on to say that this is not suspected to be terror-related. I don't know details of what goes on in the UK. I do know that there are some terror attacks occasionally, and they believe that this is not terror-related. So you're talking about girls that are 6 to 11, and I do want to address something real quick on this before we go on. I'm showing on here. You can see this is what it looked like, right? This is what they showed to try to get the girls, let them know that this was going on, right? Anyways, I made a TikTok video about this, and the comments, so many of them are more concerned about the fact that Taylor Swift's name was used than the fact that there are children that are dead and others in critical condition. And I think that that's absolutely disgusting and disturbing. Using Taylor Swift's name has nothing to do with trying to do anything other than let people know that this was the theme of the event, because typically when you think of a bunch of little girls dancing around to Taylor Swift, it seems pretty innocent. And I think that that's just a point that I wanted to drive home, but also that every other news outlet, I can't speak for other news outlets, are trying to drive home as well when they put it in there. I feel like anybody, if you're more concerned about the name being used than the event itself, then you might need to take a good, long, hard look, whatever, at your life, because it's freaking sickening. And that's all I'm going to say to that. So the next thing I want to talk about is these three people that's sitting up here. The first one, as you can see, is Diddy. The guy in the middle is Keefe D, Dwayne Keefe D Davis, and the other one is Tupac Shakur. And so I'm actually pretty excited to share this story with y'all. There's a pretty significant development in one of hip hop's biggest solved crimes, and that is, of course, the murder of Tupac Shakur. Now, this case has captivated the public for nearly 3 decades, and recent events have brought it back into the spotlight and potentially shedding new light on this tragic chapter in music history and the legacy of music. So, in case you don't know or you're too young to remember, let's just give you a brief background. On September 7th, 1996, Tupac Shakur was shot multiple times in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas. He succumbed to those injuries 6 days later on September 13th, and he was only 25 years old. Now, for years, the case remained unsolved, which has fueled countless theories, some pretty great theories and speculations, if you ask me. I mean, they're definitely creative. However, in a surprising turn of events this past September, law enforcement made a significant breakthrough and arrested Dwayne Keefe D Davis and charged him with the murder of Tupac Shakur. Now, this arrest is particularly noteworthy because Keefe D has long been known to have been present in the vehicle from which the shots were fired. Now, to understand the significance of this arrest, it's also crucial to know who Keefe D is. At the time of Tupac's murder, Keefe D was a high-ranking member of the Southside Compton Crips, and he held the position of shot caller. In gang hierarchy, this role carries substantial authority, including the power to order and approve violent actions. Now, given his status, Keefe D's involvement in the shooting, even if he wasn't the trigger man, which nobody believes that he was, implicates him heavily in the crime. It's actually, just real quick to note, his nephew is believed to be the trigger man, and he is dead. So, in fact, it's actually noteworthy that two of the individuals let me say that again. It is worth noting, maybe that's a little bit better way of putting it, that the individual present of that fateful night, there are 2 people left alive: Keefe D himself and Suge Knight, who is the former CEO of Death Row Records, and he is currently serving a 28-year prison sentence for an unrelated manslaughter conviction where he ran somebody over with his car and then put it in reverse and ran over them again. So, very much voluntary manslaughter in that case. Now, let's delve into these new revelations, because this is where Diddy gets involved in here. And these are adding complexities to the case, by implicating Diddy in this, who, as you know, has had a ton of legal challenges lately. Now, court documents have unveiled that Keefe D allegedly cooperated with the LAPD in an undercover operation back in 2009. This cooperation came about after Keefe D was apprehended for trafficking a substantial quantity of narcotics. Now, according to documents filed, the LAPD decided to take advantage of this and leverage Davis's legal predicament to gather information on none other than hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. Now, according to prosecutors, Keefe D participated in an undercover mission that took him from Los Angeles to New York City, the primary objective being to corroborate the conspiracy that Diddy might have been involved in the Las Vegas shooting that took Tupac's life. Now, apparently this operation wasn't 100% solely focused on Diddy, though. Apparently there was also another target, a guy by the name of Eric Martin, who goes by the name Von Zip, and he is a known figure in Harlem's criminal underworld. And the inclusion of Martin in this investigation suggests that the LAPD were casting a very wide net, exploring various connections and potential conspiracies related to Tupac's murder. Perhaps, though, the most explosive allegation to emerge from these recent revelations is Keefe D's claim regarding Diddy's alleged involvement. In police interviews, Keefe D has asserted that Sean Combs offered him $1 million to assassinate both Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight. This alleged offer was said to have been made during the height of the infamous East Coast-West Coast hip-hop war, which was a period of intense conflict between Bad Boy Records, which was co-founded by Diddy, and Death Row Records, which was founded by Suge Knight and home of Tupac. Now, according to Keefe D's account, Diddy allegedly paid him half the promised sum following Tupac's death in '96, which half would make sense because only one of the two targets died, which was Tupac. The motive behind this alleged hit, as suggested by Davis, was Combs' fear of Tupac, particularly in the wake of the scathing diss track Hit 'Em Up, which targeted Diddy and his associates. The legal documents related to this case paint a pretty vivid picture of the allegations against Diddy, which his name reportedly appears 77 times, which underscores the frequency which he is mentioned in connection to this case. One particularly damning piece of evidence is a transcript where Davis directly accuses Combs of playing a role in the shooting. When investigators asked if Diddy, quote, played a role in this thing, Keefe D's response was, yeah, I think he did. Another detail that emerged from these transcripts, Keefe D recounted a conversation he allegedly had with Diddy following Tupac's death. And according to Keefe D, Diddy reached out to inquire if the Southside Compton Crips were responsible for Tupac's murder, asking, is that us? And Davis apparently claims that he responded very pridefully, saying, yeah, it was us and their involvement. To add another layer to this narrative, Kirk Burroughs, who co-founded Bad Boy Records with Diddy and served as president, shared some intriguing insights into the dynamics between all the key players in this drama. So Burroughs claimed that Combs harbored jealousy over the friendship between Biggie and Tupac because Biggie and Tupac were really good friends at one point. And according to Burroughs, Diddy had aspirations of forging his own friendship with Tupac, but Pac didn't want anything to do with Diddy. He didn't trust him. He didn't like him. He didn't want anything to deal with him. And this rejection allegedly led Diddy to encourage Biggie to write songs with confrontational lyrics, fostering a beef narrative between the two rap legends. Now, one song in particular, Who Shot Ya, which was released in 2005, was purportedly pushed by Diddy to stir up controversy, despite the fact that Biggie was insistent that this wasn't a diss track. It was not a diss track. But Diddy pushed that it was, and Tupac's fire response came in the form of the song Hit 'Em Up, which, personally speaking, I believe is the greatest diss track of all time. And I realize that Kendrick Lamar just put out a phenomenal diss track. I still don't think it holds a candle to Hit 'Em Up. That said, Hit 'Em Up further escalated the perceived conflict between East Coast and West Coast rap scenes. Now, I will say, and we're going to get to this in a second. Well, you know, I'm going to pause that thought for a moment. I'm just going to say it now. Sorry, I was thinking about it. Basically, it appears that, and this is what I learned today, that this whole East Coast, West Coast rivalry was manufactured. That it was pushed by Diddy over this whole thing. At least that's what this is saying. That's what Ken Burroughs is saying, who worked with Diddy, that this was manufactured over the fact that Pac didn't want to be friends with Diddy. Okay? That's what he was said. That's what he said. It took there was a lot of violence that came out of the rivalry. And obviously two of the greatest rap legends to ever live were killed in it. So I think that it's important to note that. It's also crucial to note that despite these explosive allegations, there is no current active investigation into Sean Combs regarding Tupac's murder. Sources close to the investigation have confirmed that there is neither an open nor pending investigation, and no new information has surfaced to implicate Diddy directly in these claims. That's the official answer. Diddy has also gone on record regarding his involvement in Tupac's death, saying that, quote, "This story is beyond ridiculous and completely false. Neither Biggie nor I had any knowledge of the attack before, during, or after it happened. It is a complete lie to suggest that there was any involvement by Biggie or myself." Now, I'm going to just say I find it hard to believe that he didn't know after it happened, but whatever. All that said, both of these people have been known to bend the truth, meaning Diddy and Keefe D. So as this continues, I'll make sure to keep you guys updated. Now, Keefe D has pled not guilty to 1 count of murder with a deadly weapon and is due in court for his trial, which is supposed to start November 4th, 2024. So, well, I'm even toying with the notion of possibly going out there. People have told me that's a bad idea, so we're still just working on that. Now, I want to get into this story. This is a story that I was talking about, and I will tell you right now, if there's any story that you might want to see some of what we're talking about on YouTube, if you're on TikTok, this would be it. If you want to jump over and see this, we're talking about a story that a lot of y'all probably don't know about it. I came into the know of it, I guess, by seeing Tiziant had posted another video, basically almost a duet, so to speak, of another creator whose name, unfortunately, I cannot remember at this moment, and I apologize for that because she should have full credit for this. And I've spent the last few days, kind of researching this and got a lot of information today. And the individual that I'm showing you, his name is Nicholas Rolando Valls. And he is an alleged serial predator and abuser who's been getting away with it for roughly 37 years in 3 different states and 7 different schools across Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. He has allegedly abused dozens and dozens and dozens of girls. Now, apparently, in February 2022, a former student named Caroline Leach filed a police report with the Lake Dallas Police Department for the repeated SA and R committed against her by Valls between the years of 1999 and 2005. According to Caroline, though, the detective that was assigned in her case, Detective Nosif, never did anything. And in fact, North Little Rock High School, after these allegations, still allowed him to teach for over 20 days with no investigations being made. Now, once she found out about this, Caroline found out about this, she took it to social media, and the story finally began to garner a lot of attention and eventually reached the halls and the students at North Little Rock High School, and they decided to hold a protest. So what did the school administrators do in that case? Well, they placed him on paid administrative leave before retiring him and his wife, who is allegedly also complicit. However, everything has been done to ensure they keep this out of the media. So I did a lot, tried to find anything I could related to the media on this. And there is virtually nothing out there. There's a couple articles behind paywalls, so you can't get to them unless you want to pay for some local paper, which I don't necessarily want to do. There are court documents out there conveniently with a lot of the court documents, and there are a lot of court documents out there. But when you go to click on them or to download them, somehow those files are corrupt. Okay? But I can understand why they don't want the publicity around this, because even Valls' own son, Hunter, has come forward in support of the multiple survivors and informed admins. Sorry, I cannot read what I wrote here. Has come forward in support of the multiple survivors, and he informed administrative staff, HR, and the school board. He stated that he's been trying to get his dad out from teaching for the past several years. He even went as far as going to the Department of Education in Arkansas. He went there with a letter from several girls, their stories all in writing. One girl in particular said that she didn't want her statement in writing and she would rather be called in order to share it. But nobody ever called her. They just swept it under the rug. I'm going to show you some of those statements, and I'm going to give you a trigger warning on this because these are going to be kind of hard to read. but we're going to do it. Okay. This is the one by Caroline. Her story. I was AR'd and molested by Mr. Valls, aka Nicky Valls, real name Rolando Valls, a Lake Dallas teacher when I was in grade school. Possible years are 99 to 05. The abuse happened on the school bus and at his house numerous times. I remember other men and who they are as well as one of the and who they are as well on one of those days, but still working on recovering those memories. Tom Davenport, Lake Dallas superintendent at the time, knew of the abuse but did nothing. Therefore, the abuse progressed. He also admitted in a meeting with my parents that he saw no issue with Mr. Valls kissing other students because he, the superintendent, did the same thing. One day, Mr. Valls and his wife, Tanya, up and left the school like fugitives and moved to Arkansas to continue teaching. He has taught in Louisiana, Texas, and now Arkansas, and has been jumping from school to school ever since he started teaching, abusing numerous girls. He is, at the time this was filed or written, he is currently teaching at North Little Rock High School with his wife, and still nothing has been done yet. We need justice. So that's the first one. Now let me show you another. I'm not going to show you all of these because there are more. I will in other videos show them. There are more. This one is really painful to read. I was his teacher's aide at Central Arkansas Christian when I was 15 years old in 2007. My dad had just passed away from a brain tumor, and Coach Valls had a couch in his classroom that he'd let me sleep on during my TA period because I wasn't sleeping well at home. One day I woke up to the lights off and his hand up my skirt. No one close to me took me seriously, including my family, to the point that for a while I was convinced that I'd made it up. I dropped his class the day after, but I could still always feel him staring at me in the hallways. This experience still haunts me. Being a 15-year-old girl and already in an extremely vulnerable state, I never felt validated before. Thank you for being brave enough to share this, Carolyn. Show you another one. This is from his son. I'm Nicky Valls' son. I'm grateful that because of Caroline's bravery, so many of you who had him or currently have him at North Little Rock High School and CAC have had the courage to share her post and to share your stories about him. Again, this is his son. To those of you who were abused and or continuously groomed by Mr. Valls, I am very sorry. I've unfortunately known about this for 3 years, and I've spoken directly to the survivors of my dad's abuse who suffered damaging things from him. Be assured he was always testing you to see how far he could go before he'd be stopped. He wanted to go farther and farther and has. He's been doing this kind of thing for probably 30 years. What's worse is that North Little Rock High School administrators, HR, and school board has known about this for 2 to 3 years as well. I informed them of everything I knew as truthfully as possible after speaking directly with survivors of his abuse. I even asked those women if they would be willing to directly share their stories so they weren't coming from me, and they agreed to do that. One of them didn't want her story in writing and rather asked that they call her, but nobody ever called her. I would have reported to the police and tried, but I had no details about current minors being harassed or abused by him. But now I see that that was indeed happening. Once a minor becomes an adult, they are the only ones who can report. I just want to keep kids, like many of you, safe. I didn't want my dad to have access to kids. He shouldn't, but he has for 3 more years. For whatever reason, administrators has never seen fit to remove him from the classroom. There may be multiple reasons, which I cannot speculate on, but one big reason is nothing has ever been reported. They're not obligated to remove him because he can pass a background check because nothing was ever put on an official piece of paper by anyone. Abuse survivors, adults who knew what would happen, school officials, no one. This is why it's so important to report abuse. So speaking up if you've been abused by anyone, report to the proper channels. After all, it's not the school administrator's job to deal with abuse. That's for law enforcement. I'm going to say that I disagree with that statement because they are mandated reporters. They're absolutely mandated reporters. All right. So this is very disturbing in 30-something years. Now, more than 30 girls and women at this point have come forward stating that they were also victims of this man. More than 30. Multiple victims reported this information to admins of their respective schools. None of the admins did anything to stop it. Allegedly, he would come up behind these girls and press himself up, his groin up against them. As a PE teacher, he would allegedly make the girls play center during football, and he would play as quarterback as an excuse to fondle and touch them, like grabbing the ball from between their legs and making sure he put his hand where they shouldn't. Another example is that Valls went to a school administrator's office. Again, school administration knew about this. They knew about this. And he went to the school administrators to get a girl pulled out of an AP chemistry class and into his own non-AP class just to be near her, and they allowed it, knowing the reputation that preceded him. There's even one example where one day a janitor at Darnell Middle School opened a locked closet door and found Valls, we'll just say very inappropriately, with a 13-year-old girl. That janitor did the right thing and reported this directly to the principal and the superintendent, and they did nothing. Nothing. It's also been reported that along the same lines, back in the 1980s, some teachers were eyewitnesses to this behavior, and those teachers did nothing. Now, I don't know when it became became the legal precedent that teachers and administrators all became mandated reports. I can't say that was the case in the 80s, but even in the 80s, doing the right thing was still doing the right thing. So where is he now? He was retired. Remember him and his wife. Let's show his wife up here. Because remember, his wife was complicit. Let's show her picture. We'll show him again. So where is he now? He's not in jail. He's never been arrested. He apparently moved to Mountain View, Arkansas. Now, while it's unclear that if he's still teaching or not, it is confirmed that he is a youth minister. Let that sink in for a second. He's a youth minister for the Church of Christ in that area. Because if you can't be a teacher and you need to be near kids, youth minister. Youth minister. Now, all this said, between 1985-ish and 2022, I'm going to give you the schools that Nicholas Rolando Valls taught at in order. And before I name them to you, if you or anyone in your family was at these schools and or experienced abuse by Valls, please reach out to Andrew Myers at the Taylor Law Firm in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Okay? There is a case being built against this man. And if you or your children, because as somebody pointed out on TikTok, if there is 30 people that came forward, there are probably at least 90 victims. And he's had 30 years of doing this, and he's never been caught. So the first one is Darnell Middle School in Darnell, Arkansas. Bald Knob High School in Bald Knob, Arkansas. Washita Christian School in Monroe, Louisiana. Lake Dallas High School and Lake Dallas Middle School. Central Arkansas Christian in North Little Rock, Arkansas. And then North Little Rock High School in North Little Rock, Arkansas. Now, he may also be a youth minister at various Church of Christ youth ministers. So if you have had him as a youth leader, I would say come forward with that too. I just, it's a lot. This story needs to be everywhere, and it's for the most part nowhere. There's a lot of people who were abused by this guy. So if you had children who went to these schools, I guess anywhere between 1985, or you went to these schools between 1985 and 2022, and you had this teacher or something happened to you, or somebody who went to these schools, please make sure that they know this story. Again, I will do a more condensed version on TikTok because you can spread it a little bit quicker that way. But this is absolutely horrendous that he has gotten away with it for all of these years. And he doesn't need to get away with it any longer. He needs to pay for what he's done. He needs to be jailed. He needs to be made an example of. To get away with it through 4 decades, at least 80s, 90s, 2000, 4 decades. No, 2010s and 2020s, 5 decades. To get through it through 5 decades, and never have anything done. Did not ever have an administrator take the kids seriously. For nobody to press charges. For police not to properly investigate. Completely unacceptable. And frankly, if I were him, which I'm not, thank God, and I was accused of the horrible things that he's accused of, the last thing I would want to do is become a youth minister. I'd want to stay far away from kids as possible. But nope, he puts himself right in the middle of it. Right in the middle of it. And unfortunately, we hear so much about terrible things happening at schools, whether it's physical abuse, SA, extreme bullying that goes, unchecked. And I think that it's time that, well past time, that as parents, as members of the community, that we hold the schools accountable for their actions. Anyways, that's what we have for the day, guys. That's about it. Now, I will say this. I'm going to leave y'all on this tidbit real quick. This story that I'm going to share with you, or I'm going to tease you guys with, is not one that's current, but it's really interesting. And I'm just gonna leave it this way and ask rhetorically. You don't have to answer. And I plan to talk about this in the next couple of days. But what does Debbie Harry, the lead singer of Blondie, and Ted Bundy have in common? Because you might be surprised. Because people keep asking for his name, I'll give it one last time. I'll put his picture up. His name is Nicholas Rolando Valls. Valls. And again, there are more stories. This is not the only video we're doing about this. He needs to be held accountable. You can't give 30, 90, 100, however many victims he has. You can't send that many people away with that much trauma and not be held accountable for it. And that's all. Somebody said I need to employ a happy story at the end. Well, I'll tell you what. The one about Blondie and Ted Bundy ends up kind of being a happy story, I guess. Anyways, I appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. Make sure to hit that follow button if you don't already, or that subscribe button on YouTube. And thank you guys for tuning in.